was how is the test marked? With the test, there are 4 types of faults on a driving test. You have your dangerous faults, which does what it says on the can. You've basically done something dangerous. Somebody has had to take massive evasive action, slammed on the brakes, steered around you, something along those lines. A serious fault, which is anything that breaks the law or is potentially dangerous. So if you did it continuously, eventually it would become a big scenario. So this is when you've caused someone to change speed, they've had to slow down, but not the sharp braking that the dangerous one has come, but you have caused them to change speed. Then you have the scenarios, I'm trying to think, breaking the law ones, not stopping at a stop junction, that's breaking the law. Going through red lights, over the speed limit, all of those are like breaking the law ones, so they would automatically be serious faults. Your driver faults or any errors in your driving, so missing a mirror check, missing a blind spot check, being in the wrong gear, all those sort of things. Now, the thing with most driver faults is they can turn into serious faults at any point, depending on what's around you. Now, the one I like to use is the blind spot check. Is quite a good example. So you miss a blind spot check, it's a driver fault. If you miss a blind spot check and there is someone in that blind spot, that has now become a serious fault because there's a huge potential danger there. If you miss a blind spot check and move off and the parked car on the other side of the road also moves off, that's now become a dangerous fault because that car's had to slam on the brakes to stop from avoid hitting you. So you can see how the same mistake can actually be weighted differently. The 4th fault you can get on a test, the examiners don't actually mark, so they call it a not worthy. So this is where you have made a mistake, but they haven't deemed it worthy of marking as a driver fault, or potentially it was a mistake but it didn't affect anyone on the road, so you may be just a bit lucky there was no one around, that sort of kind of scenario. So this is where, as instructor, where a lot of learners sometimes get a bit confused because they come back and go, oh, I should have had about 10 mistakes, because they've been working with their instructors and their instructors levels are up here and the test level is about here. So we as instructors tend to work to maximum standard. We want you to be the best, safest driver you can possibly be. The test is actually minimum standard, so that is the worst you can possibly be to go out on the road safely. But in reality, we want you way better than that because we want to keep you safe all the time. Which is why when we're on our lessons, we're not working towards that driving test. We're working towards you as a driver after that driving test. So yeah, that's how they get faulted marked. Personally, if I'm out on a test, I don't worry about it. It's not your job. That's the examiner's job to mark the driving test. So it's, so I'm just going to grab some water. Yeah, it's the examiner's job to mark a driving test, not yours. They have spent months and months training on what is a fault, how to weight the fault, how to manage the situation. That is completely their job. The more you worry about those marks and what are those marks, the more likely you're going to make mistakes. If nothing else, because you're not concentrating on the road. So your job is to forget about the fact you're on a driving test and focus on, can I be safe on the road?